Hi, this is Tanya Sheridan with InAllSassiness.com, and today I'm going to come to you with a third video with my Perpetual Sassy calendar. So today we're going to do May and June, and make sure that you go back, and I have all the links posted together if you missed January through March. So I wanted to go back to the original design. So I've done a couple of different formats. The first time I did a 5x5 for those who wanted to try a different size. The second video I showed how you could make it into a 6x8 album. And tonight I'm going to show you how to do it on the exact page that you would have received in your kit. So just giving a little bit of background. This is available on in my shop at InAllSassiness.com. You can order just the custom kit pieces in all the specialty papers, or you can order it with those pieces and with the calendar base and pages. So it's available either way, and that's why I've showed a few different ways that you can use these pieces in your crafting and lives. So I'm going to take you step by step through May. First of all, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this little guy. So I am going to just put adhesive on the bottom. This is my strip of Bluebell glitter paper, and it's going to go at the very bottom. And I've mentioned before, I cut these a little bit bigger on purpose so that it wouldn't cut short. Because sometimes if you cut it exactly with the trimmer, then it's a little bit short, and then it's hard to cover that oopsie and what have you. So I'm going to do that first, and then we're going to open up our little bags. And there is one extra little bag that has our sequins, so I'm going to move that over here. And then there's all these little pieces. Now, I didn't mention when I started that you will need, so you can pause this if you need to, some type of a glue. I'm using the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue, the blue one. I'm going to use the Liquid Stickles, the diamond, which is my favorite. That, of course, is optional. My adhesive runner, my scissors, and then my 3D foam dots, as well as a 3D foam tape. So those are things that you want to grab if you haven't already done so. But we're going to empty out the little contents of this bag. And you want to do it on a safe surface because there's lots of little pieces in this one for these flowers. We want to make sure that we don't lose them. I am using this awesome mat that is underneath my Versa mat. That is the all-purpose mat. And so that's kind of nice to keep my surface clean, and then I can do my adhesive on it and wipe it right off. So let me get that last little dot out there. Okay. So we have all those pieces. Again, just be really careful when they come off so that you don't lose anything. Okay, so we're gonna start with our mason jar. And with the mason jar, you're gonna look for this piece, which is the holographic paper, and it should have like a little shine to it. And then you're gonna look for the top of the mason jar. So I'm gonna slide that over to the side. And you're gonna look for your julep, which is a retired color, but it is available for while supplies last on my website. So if you love it as much as I do, you will want to grab it as soon as possible. So I'm gonna position that about there. I want to make sure that I can see those little stems when I put the top of my mason jar on. And I am going to just put adhesive over on the side on the stems, okay? So I'm gonna kind of position it about where I think that I had it before. Before I glue this top piece down, I'm gonna double check that I can see my stems, because you can always pull it up a little bit. You do wanna be careful because you'll see the adhesive on the holographic paper. So you wanna be pretty precise at the beginning. So then I'm gonna take the sapphire glitter part of my mason jar. I'm gonna flip that over, and I'm gonna add adhesive to it. And that is going to go right on top of the holographic mason jar. I'm hoping you don't get too much of a glare. It's a little bit tricky with this holographic paper, but it is so worth it. It is absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find the pieces for my flower, okay? So some of these you can switch. So you could do the light or the dark side. I think I use the light. Some you might not be able to, so you'll want to be cautious with that. Line it up before you put the adhesive on to see if it's one that is geometrically allows you to switch it up. Okay, so this little piece I am going to try to match up, and I just keep rotating it until I find, looks like that's the way it goes, the way that it fits. And I put that down. Whoops. Okay, and now I have these little tulip things. I don't know my flowers, so forgive me, but I'm not versed in all of the flowers. I know I love tulips, so that is the way I want to go. Okay, so I'm going to put adhesive on that and just kind of run it across your roller with your finger. And I'm going to glue that one down. And again, I'm going to pick it up to make sure that I get it. If you have it the wrong way, or if it doesn't match exactly, with this one you get a cheater because you can slide it upward and cover that tip. See how it doesn't line up exactly, and it makes it a lot easier. Okay, and so now I have this other little guy, the other kind of tulip or bluebellish, I don't know exactly what it is, but pretty flower. And normally I would do this directly on my Versamat, but the Versamat's so dark it's hard to see these pieces, so that's why I keep picking it up. I don't want it to mess up my calendar page. Okay, so now we have these little dots. Now for these, I am going to relocate this. Hold on, let me pick it up. I can get underneath it. I think we're about to have a little friend pop in and join us. She was supposed to be put up, but that's okay. Okay, so we are going to simply do a little teeny dot of glue on each of those berries, okay? You could try to pop them up if you wanted. For me, they're way too small. I would not be able to successfully pop them up. So I'm gonna use my finger to kind of get them into position, and then you can also always use your piercing tool to slide them exactly where you want them. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but I am just kind of switching mine up. I'm not necessarily doing them all the same color. Some I'm doing light, some I'm doing dark, and I think there's two different, I think there's Bluebell and there might be one or two of a different, whatever this purple color is. I want to say it was Wisteria, but I could be wrong. So I'm just putting it on those dots. That one looks awfully big. I think I want to use this one. And then positioning it with my piercing tool so that I'm not getting the glue all over my fingers and over the bigger pieces. Okay, so that is that one. Then I have a couple of extras that I'm not going to be using, so I'm going to slide those off to the side. Okay. Okay, so here is my jar, my vase, whatever you want to call it. So now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to use, whoops, did I lose one? Or was that just an extra one? Nope, it must have been an extra one. So I have a couple extras that you got in there. Okay, so, oh, I see where that one went. Sorry, I'll catch that up. I'm going to use these circles. They work really well in smaller spaces. And I'm just going to come down right down the center of the jar. I put a big one at the top. You can see that. I really like my foam tape. I use a lot of it because I like it to be very strong and supported. Okay, so now I'm going to use these little dots in the smaller spaces. So I'm going to do one on the leaf and anywhere that it will feasibly fit. Now these here are going to be too small, but I do really, really want them popped up. So I'm going to take the small ones and cut them with my scissors and try to get it onto the berry. And if you have to cut it from the back side, you can do that. And actually it works better, which I should have done first, sorry about that, if you cut it on the carrier sheet, because then it's so tiny, it's not sticking to your scissors. Even the non-stick scissors, I sometimes have a hard time getting them off. So I'm just gonna try to, oops, tuck that as best as I can into that space. It's a little bit tricky because it's pretty small. Okay. And then we're going to try to do this one down here, which I still have a small piece on my carrier sheet. Just like that. Okay, so now we're going to pick up our mason jar. And we are going to make sure that it's not showing anywhere. And we're going to pull off the film. And you could do this flat if you wanted to. I just really like the depth that the foam tape gives. Now, another thing that you could also do is with these little berries and leaves, you could have left the foam tape off of a few of them and pressed them down, and then have some popped up. And that would give you a little bit of depth too. This tiny, tiny, tiny one. This is one of those times that I wish I didn't have such fat fingers. Okay. All right, so we're good there. You can see that this berry I did not get, so I am going to hit that with my runner so that it stays down and it'll give me a little bit more of that depth. Okay, so I'm basically going to position this one over the first row of numbers. Do be careful when you put it down. Make sure that you're conscious of that hole. And I'm going to press that whole thing down. Okay, so the next step that we're going to do, the one that I realized that I missed, is the inside of this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one on. And again, I'm going to press it down with my piercing tool. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and do the May. And this one I absolutely adore. It is the Flower Market font. So most of the pieces, I think I told you this the last time, but most of the pieces in this calendar kit were created with Flower Market. Not all of them, but most of them. Okay, so your M needs to be over the 17 through 31 column, and it is about level, you can see it that way, with, that might be better, it's about level with the top of your top flower, okay? But I love this font. I think it is absolutely gorgeous with all the tails and the whimsiness. Of course, it's not gonna work for every project or layout, but when you can make it work, it's so pretty. I just love it, love it, love it. I think it's probably one of my favorite fonts. It is kind of tricky if you have a long title because there's so much flourish in it that it takes up, you know, your whole page. Okay, so you do want to be a little bit conscious, I'm not very conscious with that, of how high you are above the 17. You don't want to drop too far, but I am actually pretty okay with that. Okay, so it looks like I missed this little corner, and sometimes you can just hold your runner and go over it like that. Sometimes I don't always get to the very end of my pieces, and then I feel like I'm constantly pressing them down. Okay, so before we add the stickles, we're going to go back to that little bag that has your embellishments in it. And these are the cutest things ever. Whoops, I lost one in the bag. They are our white flower sequins. You can color them with metallic markers. Oops, I can't get that one out. It's stuck. All those fails tear your bag, right? You can color it with metallic markers, or you can also color them with any of the alcohol-based markers. Now, these guys they come with self-adhesive mini glue dots. However, I have found that for whatever reason, this particular product, the glue doesn't seem to hold very well on the backings. So I either put a fresh glue dot on it, or I use the glue to glue it down. That choice is yours, but I'm afraid that if you put it on with just that backing, that it's not gonna stay in place. And I do that with a lot of mine anyway, because you know they have shipping and sometimes they get juggled in shipping and they lose that. And I just feel like a fresh glue dot always does good. If you noticed, I didn't remove the glue dots on the two that still had them. I just left them there, okay? So now I'm going to take the diamond stickles. This is probably the one that I use the absolute most. And you can see it's almost out. Guess I'm going to have to order some more. I'm just doing a tiny dot in each of those sequins. Might have to have my helper grab me another one. There we go. Just the top of each of the flowers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the center of the flower. I'm going to use the tip to kind of swirl it around a little bit so it covers that whole thing and I don't have a really high blob. But then on these little berries, I'm just going to do a small one. I'm not going to swirl it around because I don't want to cover the whole flower. I just want to draw some attention. I think I'm going to have to get another bottle. This one's almost out. Just to each berry. See if the needle will help it a little bit. These have such narrow noses that usually a needle doesn't help with the stickles very much. Okay, so that is what we have for the month of May. Now you will want to let this dry. You'll want to set it aside and let it dry for a while. Because usually the stickles, I would say, you know, at least 2 hours to give it a really strong opportunity to dry. Okay, so we're going to move this one aside, and then we're going to pull out the June. And June tends to be my favorite month because it is my birthday month. So when I was doing June, I really wanted to do a rose because that is the birth month of June, and my grandmother always told me that roses were made by God just for me because of my birthday month, and they bloomed at that time. But I didn't have a rose that I really liked that either they were flat or they were too 3D. So I chose to go with the holographic butterflies because I thought that those were very pretty. Again, we're going to start at the bottom. So we're going to go, you have 2 pieces of the holographic paper. You have the Twinkle Toes and you have Sunbeam. And so we're going to go ahead and glue those to the bottom. Again, I'm using this matte, which is awesome. And when you're done, you can just take a baby wipe or you can take the stamp chamois, either one, and you can just wipe it all off. It comes off clean. Or you could use a sponge, what have you. But it is absolutely wonderful with the adhesive run over. And I'm very guilty of doing my adhesive directly on my table, and then it's a mess to clean up. Okay, so again, we did those overage just a little bit. I'm going to pick this one up a little bit. Again, I do tell you that you have to be very careful. I will hit this with a cloth with this holographic paper because the adhesive really smears on it if you accidentally get it on the top. So do be careful with it. Just like that. Okay, so now we're going to pull out our bag. And this time we're going to kind of go backwards from what we did last time. So I'm actually going to put all of my pieces over here because that's a space we're not using. We're going to attach the word June before the butterflies this time because we want to make sure that we don't get too carried away and drop our butterflies too low. Because if we drop them too low, then it's going to cover our words, and we don't want that to happen, right? So we're going to go ahead and put our adhesive. You can, it's up to you. You can do your adhesive runner, or you can do the liquid glass or the, the Tombow. Do be really careful because they're pretty fragile. So I'm going to glue. The J is about 1 finger away from the 1. Okay. And then the others are just going to proceed along that way. Now, the U and the N are pretty much, I can't tell really a difference. So either one works. I thought that maybe there would be a little bit of difference, but I really couldn't see a difference. So we're going to do the U And then we're going to do the N. You notice I'm holding it down so that I don't rip it with my tape runner. Maybe nobody else has that problem, but I struggle when I'm trying to use an adhesive runner for letters that they want to tear with the adhesive runner. So I guess that would be a good shot to use your Xyron if you're a Xyron person. Okay, so then you can see I am not spaced out. I'm awfully far. It's about 2 and 2 that way. So I'm gonna lift these up carefully and space them out just a little bit more. And I'm hoping you're not getting too much of a glare on all of this holographics. This is using the silver foil on the words. Okay, so now we get to build our very beautiful and very delicate butterflies. So you want to start with the bigger one, which is the pink color. Oops. All the little bodies are so tiny. Okay, so this little guy, you can see there's nothing underneath it, okay? So he is attached just here, just at his body. So because that is so incredibly intricate, we're just gonna use a little bit of the glue, okay? But the rest of its wings are not attached, okay? Now, I would let it dry, and then you can go back and play with it a little bit and fluff. I just curled the wings up to make them look more 3D. But I would let it dry first so that you know you have a nice, tight, secure. Okay, so then you're gonna find the little bodies. And the bodies are all the same, or pretty close to the same. I didn't finagle too much with that. Now the body I am going to, my kitty cat is playing, sorry. The body I'm just gonna do with regular adhesive, just like that, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip it over, and the entire butterfly, actually we're gonna use the regular tape. Let me grab that, because it's a little bit wider. So when I say regular tape, it's the wide, but it's thin is what I'm using. You can use whatever you like, but this is my tape of preference. I like the thin. So I'm gonna cut some pieces, and you don't have to necessarily cover the whole thing, but what I'm gonna do is this one, I'm gonna double check and flip it. Okay, so this one, I want this wing to go down. So here, I'm gonna put a little bit of adhesive, and then I'm gonna pull the foam tape. That way it's kind of a flip, so it looks like it's in motion. And you can do yours however you want. So I'm gonna position that one about there. Remember to be cautious of the hole. And you can see how this wing, you'll see it more once it dries, but this wing is higher and that wing is lower, okay? Now you could do more depth if you want and do one with 2 layers. You could very easily do that. So for this guy, let's go ahead and actually put the adhesive on first. So for this one, I'm gonna do adhesive on this side. Now I am doing the bottom, so I'm just doing the one wing that is flat. Oops, don't wanna cut my wing there. Sometimes it's really hard to do this in front of the camera or under the camera. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on and build it up on the paper, because that might be easier for some of you. Some of you, you might be fine the other way. So that one is gonna go down. Can you see the difference, how that one's flat and that one's up? Okay, so that one is going to be the twinkle toe, which is the pinky one. So again, I'm gonna put the glue on the butterfly. I'm gonna put the butterfly right down there like that. And then I'm gonna come back and put the body on. And I'm not doing anything with the antennas at all. You could play with them and pull them up. I would wait until it dries, but I'm not doing anything with the antennas with glue or adhesive. Okay, so now we're going to do the last one. I'm going to put the adhesive down on the wings. Now this one, I'm going to put a second piece on this wing. And again, you could do this with any of them. It just happens to be the one I'm choosing. So that's going to be even higher. And then I'm going to put it however I want to position it. And I just realized I didn't put adhesive on the top part. Oops. Okay, so then I'm going to go back, and I gave it a little bit of a wrinkle. I didn't mean to do that, but luckily you're not going to see it because the wings are going to go on top. And you can even curve the wings a little bit. That's what I did over here more. I think I'll do that here too. That one's pretty stuck, so we're gonna leave it so that you can see the outline of the butterfly. It gives it a little bit more character. And then we're gonna get this last little guy, the body. I think these were also from Flower Market, but I could be wrong. I wish I had written it down where every image came from, but I used Design Space, so I just search close to my heart and it pulls up everything. Okay, so now we're going to add these little dots, and you might not be able to see those very well in your picture. So what I did, still having problems with this little guy. Unclog the nose. The only problem when you clog the nose, is it might come out too fast. So you could also squeeze it off on this paper and see. Okay, so I just made a little bit of a, whoops, see? Okay, so that's a trick that you can learn from my mistakes. If you're using the clear stickles and you put it down and it comes down too fast, if you take your finger and do a quick swish, you can get it off before it seals and it doesn't stain. So that is very helpful. So I'm just going to do 3 dots in the form of a triangle, and it doesn't have to be a perfect triangle. It's just to give it accents. And over here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, just like that. And then that's all there is to it. So allow it to dry, and then once they have dried, then come back and kind of fluff or flare out the little antennas and then also the wings. So I hope you guys had a great time doing this. Whatever you do, make it sassy.